Now, like me, you've probably got a golf club in your golf bag that is your pride and joy. And for me personally, it's the TaylorMade RBZ 5-wood. Now, for those of you that have watched lots of my videos, you'll know that this club has stood the test of time in my golf bag. It's been with me through the ups and downs of my game, and it's still with me to today. However, the one thing that sometimes you need to change when it comes to your equipment is the grip. I've been holding on for dear life with this particular grip, and when I say holding on for dear life, it's kind of got to the point now where it's unusable. It's so slippery, certainly in my glove hand with this particular grip, and I've come to the point where I need to change it. But what do I do with it? Because ultimately, I don't want to change the spec on this club at all. I need it to perform exactly the same. And all the grips out there, we've got different weights for different styles of grips. And therefore, that's going to change the performance of this particular club, which I do not want to change. However, I was out in Portugal doing a filming trip for Foremost Golf. I was doing some product reviews and I came across a new grip. And it's called the Golf Pride Align Max Grip. Now, we've seen the Align grips before in the past where we've got that little rib down the back of these grips. Well, this time they've maximized that rib. And for someone like me who has come from using ribbed grips, certainly in my younger days, I moved into more rounded grips purely because we moved from a glued club to then those adjustable clubs with the hosels, and that kind of moved us more into kind of rounded grips. And I gotta say, when I grabbed that Align Max grip when I was over in Portugal, I thought, oh my goodness, this feels absolutely fantastic. It gets your hands into the perfect position straight away. Well, what Golf Pride have actually done with this setup is they've made that rib where they've taken it to the max, as it's called max. They've taken it to a point where you can really start to feel that rib under your hands, allowing you to place your hands in the perfect spot. Now, when it comes to my 5-wood, I'm actually using a multi-compound, so I've got a little bit of corded grip under my glove hand and then a softer kind of rubberized grip under my right hand. It's kind of split there. But I'm using a +4, and the +4 means that there's no taper in this grip. It stays basically straight all the way down the grip. Therefore, my right hand is not now on a grip that is slightly smaller, which you would have in, let's say, standard grip sizes. And being as I'm quite active with my right hand through the ball, it kind of quietens that down and enables me to kind of straighten up that club face just a little bit easier. And as I said, a shot like that where I'm leaking it out to the right hand side, that's because I haven't got enough control on this grip and it's time to make the change. But we've got to go through a bit of a process in order to do that with this particular club. So the first thing that I want to do from a measurement point of view, because I want to see what's kind of going on under this grip as well, because you've got to remember, I put this on actually probably well over a year, maybe even 2 years ago, and I can't remember how many wraps of tape that I've put under here, but I do want to know what the swing weight of this club is playing, because I definitely do not want that to change. That's a really important part of this club. So as it stands right now, we've got this club swing weighting at pretty much, well actually bang on, D3 is the spec on this particular setup. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut the grip off. We're going to weigh the grip to make sure that the weight of the grip that I'm going to be putting on in its replacement is going to weigh the same. We're going to measure how many wraps of tape that I've put underneath and to make sure I get the right thickness again. And then hopefully we'll be absolutely spot on and back in play, and I'm feeling great. Wow, that's actually only got one layer of tape under there. Can't believe that. It just feels like it's kind of thicker. Now you can move thickness around with grips, because you can either stretch them down the grip a little bit or down the club a little bit more, which will almost make them a little bit thinner, but you can also pack them up a little bit tighter as well to make them feel a little bit thicker. But for this particular one, it looks like I've put it on pretty much standard, as in I've not stretched it down or held it back, because I've only got literally one layer of tape. So these +4 grips, you know, there's a lot of rubber in here because ultimately they're trying to take that taper off there. So anyway, I've removed it, I've got it off nicely. You can see that that's the wrapping of tape that I've had. Look how perish that is. over time. So we're going to measure it up, get the weight, and see how that compares to the new version that I'm going to be putting on. Okay, so we have got this grip, my old grip, weighing in at 53 grams. Now I think ultimately, if I'm within like a gram or maybe even 2 grams, I don't feel like I'm going to maybe notice a massive amount of difference. I do have a little bit of lead tape that I could add to the head weight if I need to get that balance right. But ultimately, we're trying to get this one to match up perfectly. So that's at 53. Then the replacement that I want to put on here is the Align Max, and it's the +4, but it's in the standard. And these do change, they really do change. Moving from standard to then maybe mid-size, you're going to see maybe even a jump of like 20 grams. That could change the swing weight. Well, it's going to change the swing weight hugely. So 53 was what I've got out of that MCC +4, and this one now coming in, well, this one coming in at actually 55 grams. So just going to weigh that up again. I think this one did move to 54. You got to think, over time, there has been a little bit of wear and tear, probably a bit of the rubbers have come away from it, things like that. Yeah, it's jumping between 54 and 53. So I'm actually really happy that we're pretty much there or thereabouts. Might be able to take a little bit of that tape out of there from the top, maybe just to keep that weight down. But ultimately, I'm pretty happy with what we've got to this point. So just got into what I call Bernie's little workshop area. This is where we do all the repairs here at Churston, but I'm just kind of prepping now the shaft, and you can see how easy this is, this grip tape coming off here. Normally it would be a lot harder to, let's say, pull off the tape, but because it's obviously been on here so long and been through war a number of times, it's just simply just peeling off. A couple of ways you can kind of peel these off. A bit of heat, so you could probably grab a little heat gun or something like that, and that will just melt a little bit of the sort of, I suppose, the glue that's keeping the tape on. But ultimately, just a little bit of elbow grease really gets it off. When it comes to taking grips off, and this is kind of a little tip for you, is that you can get two different types. Obviously, Stanley knife blades. These here, these work really well, fine for when you're getting grips off for, let's say, steel shafts. But do yourself a favor and get the hook blade. These hook blades are really good because it gets up and under the grip, and then you can pull it up without damaging the actual graphite shaft itself. I just work with hook blades. They're really dangerous, so you've got to be careful with what you're doing with them, but ultimately work really, really well. This little bit of top here is not coming off so well, so we're just going to put a little bit of heat on it now. And again, you don't need to make this super hot. You just need to sort of almost like break the seal of it. You don't want it smoking, you just want to break the seal, and then hopefully that'll just there, so you can start to see that just peel off really quite easily. And if you put it on for too long, it would make it too hot, but this is just absolutely perfect. Just peels off, and then you've got a nice fresh area to add the next load of tape. And there we go, freshly done. Again, just double check from a measurement point of view where I want it to go, so that point there is absolutely perfect. Adding the tape, just make sure you've got enough of a lip there at the top, and you put it at a bit of an angle. It's a bit like putting on like a tennis grip, I always think. So you're going to have a little bit of a gap along the top. I want to try and keep it as smooth as I can, so that just got to get your angle absolutely perfect. There we go. So as that works its way down, keep pushing it nice and tight against it. You don't want it overlapping, and you certainly don't want your gaps too thick or too wide. And the reason for that is you'll start to feel the lumps through the grip. Obviously, the thicker the grip that you have, so these ones here that I've got, which are the MCC +4s, they should be fine because there's plenty of rubber on the grip. However, if you're going into mid-size, plenty of rubber. If you go into a standard or even a really thin size, then you might start to feel it. Cut that off there. So now we've got that nicely wrapped in. It's pretty solid. And then on the top, all I do is I try and make sure that I swirl it round and stick it down the end of there. Once it's ready, Peel that off. And this is so easy, you can do this at home, obviously. I always recommend you use your local pro, but into there, swirl it round, and push it down the grip. And that's how it'll look pretty good, I would say. Now it's time to get it in the vise. Shaft protector. This is why you use pros, because they will have all the kit that's needed to be able to do this absolutely properly. Now, one thing I would say is when you're putting it into the vise, I always like to put it in the vise because ultimately you're going to get a dead square line on it, which enables me to get this absolutely plumb square. Remember, we've got a rib down the back. I want my hands to sit perfectly in with that rib. I want this Golf Pride aligned to the face so I can align that up as well. But to do that, you need to make sure you've got it in a perfectly square vise like I've got here. Be very careful. At my PGA training, I saw so many young trainees over tighten the vise, which then you just heard this big crack, and it's basically the shaft cracking and splitting. You've got to be careful. You need to have it tight enough so it holds it, but loose enough that you don't crack the actual shaft. So now we need to get a little bit of terps in there. That will be able to be put over the double-sided tape, and then I can slide the grip on really quite easily. Just be careful, I've got my thumb over the butt of that club, because once I let it go, it'll start, all the sort of terps will start to come out the bottom of that. When I say terps, this is white spirit I use. It makes it slide on really, really easily. Be careful now going down looking, because you don't want any more terps coming out. So if you're going to get the alignment right, which for me has got to be absolutely perfect, and that is absolutely spot on for my eye. Now remember, this isn't going to take that long to really dry, especially in summertime. It'll dry a bit quicker. Take it out, and now we're just going to literally tap on the bottom, and I always try and use a little bit of rubber on the floor or a towel or something like that, just to make sure you've got the butt of the club securely down on the actual top there. Just get a little bit of white spirit off of that, tidy up that top bit. And then all I'm going to do from here is just double check that my hands sit on there perfectly. I can really feel the rib on the back for these +4s. So for me, I've got the Golf Pride perfect, everything's lined up, the hands feel great, we're ready to go. Back in the studio, back into the swing weight machine. Remember, D3 was what I kind of wanted it to be balancing at. And there it is, D3. Now this is really easy to do when you're changing from a style of grip that is the same, basically. And the only difference with these particular grips, they're both multi-compound, but we've got that rib down the back. And I didn't know whether that was going to make much of a difference, and the facts are that it hasn't. It's within one, half to 1 gram difference in the actual weight. And I think that where we've got this balance point now is absolutely perfect. So as far as I'm concerned, this club is going to play exactly the same as what I've had it on when I've had the old grip on there. However, it's going to make my life a little bit easier because I can now grip the club without almost strangling it, which is going to allow me, hopefully, to get a little bit more control out on the golf course as well. Come on, get there. It's 222-yard carry. Oh, clambered. But I've got to say, first impressions, again, it's all about alignment for me, and this is why I used the ribbed grip back in the day. I just put my hands on, and I don't need to even think about the face. Once I'm in that position, and this is where these rib grips are going to work so well for so many players, but once I get my hands into that position, I'm not twisting it in my hands. It's just set there perfectly. And that is, as I said, because of this rib that runs down the back. Now, the slight difference, again, with this particular Align one, the Align Max, is that we've got a more protruding line here. So it's popping out a little bit more and makes me feel it a little bit more. And so if you're moving into a mid-sized grip, you're going to feel that a lot more in this particular lineup. And that line runs just a little bit longer up and down the actual grip itself. Again, allowing you to be able to sort of choke down or grip right up to the top of the grip. and still being able to find your hands in the perfect position. So there we go. That's what I'm going to be putting on my 5-wood moving forward. And if things go well, which I expect them to go well, I'm going to run these right the way through my golf bag. I'm pretty much set with all the specs that I've got, and therefore I just need to make sure I get these grips on perfectly for my hands. As I said, available in the +4 version in the standard and mid-size, which I'm going for the standard in the +4, and you've got the kind of a standard, more tapered version in the standard and the mid-size. So we've pretty much got ourselves covered with every sort of thickness when it comes to these grips. So go and check them out for yourself. Big thank you to Golf Pride for getting involved and sending me out these grips. I'm looking forward to putting them to the test on the golf course. Don't forget, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you again on the next video.